What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Hey, if you like this video, cool, hit that like button and comment below on any video that you watch, including this one. So now that it's been 35 years since this movie came out, August 7th, 1985, I'm excited to talk about Real Genius because Real Genius is very near and dear to my heart for the simple fact that I've seen this movie probably more than any film I've ever seen in my entire life. If I could guesstimate, probably 50, 60 times I've seen this movie, and I see it about 4 to 5 times a year because I love it so much. It's a movie that just wears its heart on its sleeve and is very obscure, very obtuse, very strange, very just out there, but it is so much fun. It's so creative and has a great ending to it because it feels like a college movie wrapped in a science project, wrapped in a just like sex comedy and stuff like that. And it does so much with this material that you just cannot not love this film. And it also has memorable characters too, so that helps this movie along. But this movie, like I said, I grew up watching. It didn't make a lot of money. I think it made like $14 million. But the strange thing is, like a lot of movies that have, very small box office takes, this movie gained a cult following. And I'm glad it did because these types of movies are the movies I love, the movies I like to watch. Like I said, One Crazy Summer didn't make a lot of money. Clerks especially didn't make a lot of money. And they have great cult followings that have kind of propelled them into the later lives of their career. And I like the fact that this movie gained kind of an audience later on. I mean, the last like 10 years, this movie has seen like a new light of day, which is really, really cool. It's kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody with Queen got new life with Wayne's World. It's really cool when that happens because it gives people that have never seen this film a new chance to watch it. And I love that type of thing. So, but this movie is directed by Martha Coolidge, who actually did some research with Caltech to kind of get an idea about how a college like this would run, with really smart people who are working on a very advanced prototype project. And it also involves, like I said, Val Kilmer's in this movie. And I like reading about how Val Kilmer got the role because he came in, instead of they basically wanted someone who was going to act like they're really smart, but they got like a free-willing, free-spirited type of individual, and it plays so well in this movie. Val Kilmer kind of embodies this movie in its nutshell with the simple fact of this movie, as he says to Mitch is very stuffy, very kind of uptight, and that's what this movie could have become. It could have been really uptight, it could have been really stuffy, it could have been just kind of boring and bland. But because you have this character of Chris Knight, the Val Kilmer character, who is so free spirited, so outgoing, and willing to do whatever it takes to kind of relax himself, to have, a less stressful school environment, is such a kind of cool aesthetic to have in a college comedy, especially in the 80s. We had stuff like Back to School that kind of did similar things with like the outlandish main character. But Chris Knight is a very smart individual, one of the smartest in the world. He's about ready to get a job with a very high-tech company. But he, like I said, his free spirited and free wheelings and stuff like that have kind of gotten the ire of his professor, the person who's running this project that's basically this laser tech. And it's Professor Jerry Hathaway, who was played by William Atherton. Now, William Atherton I really love too because William Atherton has played great villains in the 80s with like Ghostbusters and Die Hard, so he's such a great villain in this movie. But he's gotten the ire because Chris Knight is just kind of coasting through his last year of college. And then we have Gabe Jarret, who comes into this movie, who plays Mitch. And Mitch is a 15-year-old super smart student who Jerry Hathaway brings in to work on this laser project because of all all the stuff that Chris Knight has been doing that kind of has pushed back the project and stuff like that. And Mitch is one of those, like I said, stuffy, very uptight kids. His parents have like put him in this type of box, this type of this situation where he's always wearing suits and ties and stuff like that. He works really hard. And the funny thing is there's a point in this movie where Chris is like, you have to, relieve your stress. You have to be kind of, free willing, because if you don't, you're going to lose your sanity and your mind's just going to implode upon itself. And that's why these characters work so well together, because Mitch's drive and his push forward of him just being a young kid who's being pushed to his limits And then when he clashes with Chris Knight, it becomes a kind of cool aesthetic of somebody transforming into what Chris ends up being later on during the whole movie. And I love the kind of the 180 that Mitch takes in this movie, and I really like his character because you see him start to be like really attractive to a woman in this movie. You see him kind of relaxing as he's trying to push himself to get this laser project taken care of, as well as go to school. He's of course being picked on by other nerd kids in this movie, like characters like Kent. But he has a way about him, a kind of free spirit that is slowly starting to come out as this movie's pushed along. And that's what makes this character such a well-developed, well-unique character that works really nicely with Chris Knight. And so when we have these two characters, when they collide with Jerry Hathaway and everything that's happening with that, we have these other characters who are being pushed into the mix. We have Michelle Meyrink, who plays Jordan, and Jordan is a very, very smart individual, but she's very hyperkinetic. She's very going like Speedy Gonzalez or, Sonic the Hedgehog, where she's going like a million miles a minute in her head, and she's trying to do this, and this. There's some like really great sequences where she's like, reading a book while she's like stripping the floor in her bedroom of her dorm room. And there's sequences where like she'll run into the restroom where Mitch is taking a pee, and she'll like measure him for like a sweater and stuff like that. But her character is such a relief because there's so much darkness in this movie, and there's so much like downtrodden stuff that happens that she feels like almost like a free spirit herself, but she is so in her head that it takes a character like Mitch, who's working off Chris Knight, to kind of settle her down, and you see her kind of settle down and become more stable as the movie moves along, even though she's still, hyperkinetic and stuff like that. So I really like what Michelle Meyrink is doing in this movie. I think she's fun and energetic. How she is able to talk as quickly as she does and doesn't like run out of steam, and of course she doesn't sleep in this movie. And it's a fun character, it's an entertaining character, and it's a good love interest for Mitch, who is a very repressed, very stuffy character who's able to kind of blossom throughout this movie because of a character like her and a character like Chris Knight. So it's really kind of nice, it's really kind of cool and fun and energetic. And so the last character in this group of protagonists is John Gries's character Laszlo. And Laszlo is a much older individual. He's probably in his 40s, maybe late 30s or something like that. He is what Chris Knight would have become, or what Mitch will become, if they had like stayed the course of being stuffy and stuff like that, where he kind of imploded. He kind of like lost sight of everything, and it kind of ruined him. So now he lives in the sub basement in the subsystem of this school, which is I think Pacific Tech or Pacific North or something like that. And he just sits down there in his like pajamas and stuff like that. And he, because he's been down there for so long, he needs a new lease on life. So he's doing all these printable, contest cards for like Frito-Lay to win a bunch of prizes. And because he's so smart, he's actually kind of boiled down to how much he can win and what percentage he can win. So, which is really, really funny and really cool to see. It's the thing about Laszlo that's most exciting and most interesting is the way we're introduced to him. We're not introduced to him in like, oh, he lives in this house. No, he lives in the sub basement. But how he gets there is kind of awesome because he walks through Chris and of course Mitch stay in the same dorm room, but he walks into their room and goes into their closet, and Mitch opens the closet and he's not there. So where the hell does he go? Well, at some point during this movie, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes into the movie, about halfway through the movie, Mitch actually decides to go into the closet and close the door. Well, if you've seen this movie, you know that there's a hidden revolving wall there that takes you to this like really cool cable car system where it pushes down and it takes you down to the subsystem. So it's like a hidden wall or a hidden area that you would see in a video game. But it's like my favorite sequence in the movie because it's so absurd and so ridiculous. How the school doesn't know that this is there. Do they have some kind of deal with Laszlo? Do they know what he's doing? It's a really kind of almost like a plot hole type situation, but it's a really fun sequence. But Laszlo, if you know John Gries also played Cousin Rico or Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. And he's the one that actually is the smartest of all of them. He's actually helping them kind of plan everything, and he's able to kind of give them information, but because he's kind of repressed and kind of pushed back on his situation, he's not very much a people person. but he kind of, finds his way, and like I said, he helps him. The protagonists in this movie kind of find their niche and stuff like that, and they end up getting the revenge plot working. So those characters revolve around the protagonists of this movie, and like I said, they're such unique, different characters, and the writing of this movie creates such fun characters that they really work off one another very, very well, and they have such great chemistry and strength that it becomes such a good click of a bunch of characters that are so odd and over the top and silly and so on and so forth. So I love this group of protagonists. I just think they're great. So we go to the antagonist side, and I don't know if I consider Kent an antagonist or just a Gray style character, where Jerry Hathaway is a very corrupt individual, and he is the guy that is basically tasked by the government, given lots of money to basically create a megawatt weapon, basically with this laser beam situation. And the government wants it by a certain date, which is putting a lot of pressure on Jerry Hathaway's character, the William Atherton character. And so he is basically pushing the kids, which makes him come out as a douchebag, an a-hole, and a character that thinks he's better than everyone else, because when he's introduced, he is a character that is basically just like, I'm better than you. There's a really funny sequence that involves Mitch's parents, where Jerry's watching how these parents work and how they act, and they're like more worried about his hair. And he's like, "Are you sure he's related to you?" And it's a really funny sequence. That's why I like William Atherton's role in this movie. I think he's really funny. But to see him play off these characters, to see him kind of go one-on-one with like Chris Knight when they have their like different meetings and stuff like that, is a lot of fun. And then we have Kent, who is played by Robert Prescott, and Kent is a very gray character who is he almost doesn't realize what he's doing for Jerry Hathaway outside of brown nosing up to him to get his like laundry and stuff like that. But he's also building the mirror for this laser project. But Kent is a character that I love because he is so slimy and so kind of, awful in a lot of the things he does. He's a very repressed, very, one of those types of like nerd type characters that's never had sex. He's never going to have sex. He's too worried about kissing up to people. And he is a great foil for Chris Knight and Mitch as this movie plays along. There's stuff with his car. There's stuff with, the whole God thing when they put a little thing into his braces and stuff like that. And it's a really funny sequence. Robert Prescott plays the character very, very well. And he plays the way he plays against the two main protagonists, as well as trying to deal with the situation at hand, is a lot of fun to watch. And I really, really enjoy his character. So, he's probably one of the most underrated characters in the movie, but he's also one of the most silly characters just because how he acts to the situations at hand. So, Robert Prescott, I love you in this movie. You're fantastic. So the laser weapon project in this movie is actually quite clever. The idea of using laser technology to destroy a moving target or a target in general is something that I'm sure is well experienced and well looked into. It's scary to think about because this whole thing is about using a death ray technology to basically kill something or kill someone or a bad guy. And the government, if they're able to get their hands on this, which they eventually do in the end of this movie, it leads into some scary scenarios of how the ideas of ethics come into play, how the use of children are becoming into play, how that's a very disturbing thing. And the thing I really enjoy about it is the laser weapon eventually is brought into light, eventually works because Chris Knight, he was doing an experiment with the laser, and Kent did something really stupid, which caused the thing to explode. And Chris Knight is sitting there thinking as he's in the kitchen of the dorm room facility, and he sees the liquid nitrogen, which has a very good foreshadowing at the very near the beginning of this movie, where he uses the liquid nitrogen to get coffee. He slices a small piece off to like a quarter size, and he sees it on the ground, and that's how he uses to make the weapon work, which causes the 5 megawatt laser to work properly. And that's when Laszlo comes to effect. He's like, what would be the purpose of that short of time with that high of a density of a laser? And it leads into the revelation that not only has Jerry Hathaway been using them, but the weapon is now in the hands of the government, which is going to be used as a test project, which is going to be used to possibly create a future tech weapon. that leads into the most amazing ending to a movie I've seen maybe ever. When I watch this movie every time, it makes me laugh because the absurdity of the ending. So they find out where this weapon is being held, the army or air force base or whatever it is, and they basically plot out this point where they get this big ball of foil that you have no idea what's in this foil. They packed a bunch of boxes up. They basically go to the Air Force Base and they reconfigure the chipset in the laser guided system to go to Jerry's house to basically explode this foil ball. So as everything's happening, as the situation starts to unfold, and the laser weapon shoots off, they actually get a senator as well as a teacher to witness this event, so they can show them that there's corruption in this school. The laser weapon basically ignites the big foil ball, which turns into be popcorn. Well, going off onto a different tangent, that popcorn is very significant because Jerry Hathaway hates the smell of popcorn, and he kind of berates Chris Knight earlier in the movie about eating popcorn on the porch and stuff like that. So it causes popcorn to basically explode, to pop. It's millions and millions upon millions of popcorn, and it basically destroys this house, which is being used with corrupt money. And it's such an amazing ending because the idea of just this popcorn sequence, the fact that they went to this length of thinking about this, it makes it actually quite clever of an ending that you don't even think or even see coming. Yeah, there's some foreshadowing, but like popcorn, destroying a house with popcorn is an incredible feat upon itself, and it just shows you how smart these kids are. That Chris Knight remembers the idea and the situation of how he was berated by Jerry Hathaway, and so we get this great ending of this laser tech not only exploding on the plane, but it exploded on the house and destroys the house. And then we see Jerry Hathaway come at the end of the night to the house, and we see him looking at the house with the dog that he hates very, very much. And it's like a great revenge tale. Now, with that said, the legal ramifications, the stuff that's going to happen with the Senate and like the Judiciary Committee and all these things that are going to go down with Jerry Hathaway and the government and with the kids is going to be, it would make for an interesting sequel, but it's such a perfect ending with such a great revenge twist that it becomes like almost a meta style movie, and I love that so much. So it's such a great ending. It leaves the movie with a great feeling to your heart and your stomach, because you want popcorn, and it gives these characters a great closure to their story, and gives the 1-0 to William Atherton once again, which is, he has some of the most amazing like villainous like revenge plays on him, and it's great. So I love it. It's a great situation. It's a great point in the movie, and it just leaves the movie out. So but that's it in a nutshell. That's all the characters. That's kind of the plot of the movie. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this, the song "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" from Tears for Fears. It's a song that I hold near and dear to my heart. I love the song to death. It's a song that, like, "Don't You Forget About Me" with Breakfast Club. It's a song that is just fits the movie. If you think about the song, you think about that particular movie. It's a song that actually fits the movie perfectly with its themes and moments and what he's trying to say, and it's very catchy and ends the movie on a perfect high note. And it just is such a catchy theme that you just cannot not sing with it. And it's a very easy, simple song to sing too. So you could be in your shower and sing it perfectly and get through the whole entire song without having any problems. So I love that song to death. I like Tears for Fears anyway, so it really fits that that situation perfectly. And the one thing that kind of is an interesting trivia fact, and the thing that I find fascinating, is Thomas Newman, a very famous composer at this point, did the score for this, one of his early scores in his career. This is unlike anything he's ever done before. It's different, it's jazzier, it's more upbeat in tone, and has a very distinct sound to it that none of his other scores have. His other scores are very good. The stuff he's worked on with like Sam Mendes and, Frank Darabont and so on and so forth. They have very Irish themed scores, very, very distinct feels to them. And the movie has completely a different feel and distinction to it. And I really like that. I think it's one of Thomas Newman's best scores. I think it fits the movie perfectly. And it also fits in with all the other songs that end up playing through this movie. They're also memorable. But I like Thomas Newman's score here. I think it's one of his best and really fits into the pantheon of what he is known for doing, which is creating great, atmospheric, authentic scores. So it's just something I wanted to bring up, and I thought it was really cool. But so that's it. That is my take, of course, on Real Genius. I'm very happy to finally talk about it. It was an exciting movie to talk about because I really love the movie to death. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Real Genius, if you've seen it. I know a lot of people have seen it at this point because, like I said, it kind of gained a much bigger following later on in its life. So let me know in the comments below. But yeah, there you go. That's my take on Real Genius. Thank you so much for watching. But if you like this channel, hit that subscribe button, which is Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Hey, if you like this video, cool. Hit that like button. If you dislike it, hey, it is what it is. But otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.